That night is still fresh in my memory. Not because it was loud. Not because there was shouting. But because of the silence that followed. The kind of silence that breaks something inside you forever. We were sitting at the dinner table like we had done hundreds of times before. Same house. Same chairs. Same food. But that night, something was different. My older brother sat across from me, scrolling on his phone, barely looking up. My mother moved between the kitchen and the table, serving food, pretending everything was fine, like she always did. I could feel it in the air. Tension. Unspoken words. I kept my head down, eating slowly, trying not to attract attention. Then it happened. My brother suddenly laughed. Not a happy laugh. A sharp one. He looked straight at me and said, "You know what your problem is." I didn't answer. I already knew where this was going. He leaned back in his chair and continued, "You're worthless." The word hit me harder than any slap ever could. Worthless. He didn't shout. He didn't curse. He just said it calmly, like stating a fact. My mother froze. Her spoon stopped midair. I looked up at her, hoping she would say something. She didn't. My brother continued, his voice cold. "You're grown now. Still no job. Still no money. Still depending on everyone. You eat at this table like you belong here, but you contribute nothing." Every word felt like a knife. I tried to speak. Nothing came out. My chest tightened. My hands shook under the table. Then he said the sentence that changed everything. If you disappeared tomorrow, nothing would change. The room went quiet. Too quiet. I stood up slowly. My legs felt weak. I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I just walked out. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, replaying his words again and again. Worthless. Nothing would change. By morning, something inside me had died. But something else was born. A decision. 1 week later, my life still looked the same on the outside. Same clothes. Same small room. Same empty pockets. But inside, I was different. I stopped trying to explain myself to anyone. I stopped asking for approval. I spent my days outside, walking, thinking, planning. I remembered something my late father once told me. When people stop believing in you, it doesn't mean you're finished. It means you're about to start alone. I had no money, no connections, no support. But I had one thing. Silence. And silence can be powerful. I started doing small jobs, work nobody wanted, cleaning yards, carrying boxes, helping shop owners. People looked down on me, but I didn't care anymore. Every night, I came home exhausted, but proud. Then, on the 7th day, my phone rang. It was late. The screen showed one word. Mom. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. Her voice was shaking. She didn't say hello. She said, "Please, come home." My heart dropped. I asked, "What happened?" There was a pause. Then she whispered, "Everything is falling apart." I rushed home. When I walked in, the house felt unfamiliar. Messy. Dark. Heavy. My brother sat on the couch, his head in his hands. He didn't look at me. My mother's eyes were red from crying. She pulled me aside and whispered, "Your brother lost everything." I didn't understand. She continued, "His business collapsed. He trusted the wrong people. He owes money." I looked at my brother. This was the same man who had called me worthless. Now his hands were shaking. His voice was gone. Then my mother said something I'll never forget. "He asked about you." I laughed softly, not because it was funny, but because life has a strange sense of timing. She continued. "He said, maybe you were stronger than he thought." For the first time in years, the table had turned. I wanted revenge. I won't lie. I wanted to repeat his words back to him. I wanted to say, "You're worthless." If you disappeared, nothing would change. But I didn't, because deep down, I knew something. That night at the dinner table didn't destroy me. It revealed me. That night, after my mother told me everything, I sat alone in my room. The same room where I had cried silently just 1 week ago. But this time, I wasn't crying. I was thinking. Life has a strange way of teaching lessons. Sometimes it uses pain. Sometimes it uses silence. And sometimes it uses time. My brother, the man who once stood tall and proud, was now broken. Not just financially, but emotionally. I could hear him in the other room, pacing back and forth, muttering to himself. The same man who said my disappearance wouldn't matter, now couldn't sleep. Late that night, there was a knock on my door. Soft, careful. I opened it. It was him. My brother. He didn't meet my eyes. For a moment, we just stood there in silence. Then he said something I never expected. "Can I sit?" I nodded. He sat on the edge of my bed like a stranger in his own house. His voice was low, almost embarrassed. I messed up. I said nothing. He continued. I thought money made me powerful. I thought success gave me the right to look down on others. His hands trembled. Then he said it. The words I had waited a lifetime to hear. "I was wrong about you." I looked at him. Really looked at him. And for the first time, I didn't see strength. I saw fear. He took a deep breath and said, "That night at dinner, I didn't mean what I said." I raised an eyebrow. He swallowed hard. I was angry at myself. My business was already failing. I felt like a fraud. He paused, and instead of facing it, I took it out on you. There it was. The truth. Sometimes, people don't insult you because you are weak. They insult you because they are afraid. Afraid you might remind them of what they are becoming. The next morning, my mother called me into the kitchen. She looked tired. Older. She held my hands and said, "There's something you don't know." I listened. She told me that years ago, when my father died, he left something behind. Not money, not land, but a letter. A letter meant for me. She had kept it hidden, thinking I wasn't ready. Her hand shook as she gave it to me. I opened it slowly. My father's handwriting stared back at me. He wrote, "To my child, if you're reading this, it means life has tested you. Remember this, the world will call you useless before it ever recognizes your value. Your strength is quiet. Your time will come." Tears fell onto the paper. For years, I thought my father never believed in me. I was wrong. That letter changed something inside me. I stopped seeing myself through my brother's eyes. I stopped measuring my worth by money or approval. I decided to build something of my own. Slowly, honestly. I used the small money I had saved from odd jobs. I partnered with people who had nothing to lose, just like me. We failed. More than once. But we learned. Weeks turned into months. Then one day, things started to work. Not overnight success, but steady growth. Respect followed. Not because I demanded it, but because I earned it. 6 months later, my brother came to me again. This time, not as a man above me, but as an equal. He asked for advice. Me, the worthless one. I didn't mock him. I didn't remind him of that night. I helped him, because I realized something important. Winning isn't about watching others fall. It's about rising without becoming bitter. 1 year later, we sat at the same dinner table. Same house. Same chairs. But everything felt different. My brother cleared his throat and said, "I owe you an apology. In front of everyone." He looked at me and said, "You were never worthless." I was blind. My mother smiled through tears. I didn't feel pride. I felt peace. People will call you names when they can't see your future. They will judge your present and ignore your potential. But remember this. The loudest insults often come from the most insecure hearts. And sometimes, the same people who break you will later ask how you became strong. Success did not arrive like I imagined it would. There was no celebration, no applause, no sudden respect. It arrived quietly. So quietly that if I wasn't paying attention, I might have missed it. One phone call. One small opportunity. One door opening, not wide, but just enough for me to slip through. And with every step forward, something else followed me. Something invisible. My past. Even after everything began to change, I couldn't forget that night. The dinner table. The cold voice. The word worthless. People think once life improves, the pain disappears. It doesn't. Pain becomes quieter, but deeper. I would be walking down the street when suddenly his voice would echo in my mind. If you disappeared tomorrow, nothing would change. Sometimes I stopped walking. Sometimes I laughed at myself. Sometimes I felt angry all over again. Because success doesn't erase humiliation. It only gives you space to process it. One morning, I stood in front of a mirror longer than usual. I barely recognized the man staring back. Better posture. Calmer eyes. Confidence. Not loud, but present. And for the first time in my life, I asked myself a dangerous question. What if he was wrong? That question felt powerful, but also frightening, because right behind it came another thought. What if I'm better than him now? That's when I realized something important. Success brings pride quietly, the same way pain brings fear. And if you don't control it, pride grows roots. People who once ignored me now listen carefully. Shop owners greeted me first. Strangers asked for advice. Friends from the past suddenly remembered my number. Nothing about me had changed overnight, but their perception had. And perception is a dangerous thing, because when people see you rising, they either respect you or resent you. Sometimes both. One afternoon, I was invited to a small meeting. Nothing big, just a discussion. But the way people looked at me, waiting for my opinion, valuing my silence, I felt something stirring inside me. Enjoyment, power, and that scared me more than failure ever did, because I had seen what power did to my brother. I remembered how he used to sit at that same table, confident, certain, careless. I promised myself something that day. I would never become the man who broke me. A few days later, life tested that promise. I was walking through a busy market. Noise everywhere. People shouting. Money changing hands. That's when I saw him. A young man, maybe 19 or 20. Thin. Sweaty. Carrying bags heavier than his future seemed. People bumped into him without apology. No eye contact. No respect. He was invisible. And suddenly, I felt sick. Because I knew that feeling too well. That was me. Not long ago. I slowed my steps. For a moment, I almost walked past him. And that moment terrified me. Because that's how it starts. That's how people forget. I stopped him. Asked his name. He looked confused. Then he said something that stayed with me. No one ever asks. Those 4 words hit harder than any insult. I helped him. Not dramatically. Not for attention. I paid him fairly. Spoke kindly. Listened. And as I walked away, I realized something powerful. Life was watching me. Not my success. Not my money. But my behavior. That same week, my brother came to see me again. He looked different. Less proud. Less loud. More human. He sat quietly before speaking. That alone told me something. Then he said, "I don't know who I am anymore." I didn't interrupt. He continued. When I had money, I thought I was strong. When I lost it, I realized I was empty. He paused. Then he looked at me and said, "You survived being nothing." I didn't. That sentence reversed our entire history. He hesitated, then asked, "How did you not give up?" I thought for a long time before answering. Then I said, "Because I had nothing left to lose, except myself." He looked away. I could see shame, but also learning. That night, I couldn't sleep, because forgiveness isn't easy, and bitterness is tempting. Part of me wanted to remind him of every word, every insult, every silence from my mother. But another part of me understood something deeper. Pain can either poison you or prepare you, and the choice is always yours. Over the next weeks, my brother changed. Not suddenly. Slowly. He listened more, spoke less, observed. He began helping without being asked. Small things, but real things. And I learned something important. True change doesn't announce itself. It shows up quietly. Life has a cruel habit. Just when you start believing that things are finally stable, it shakes the ground beneath your feet again. Not to destroy you, but to see what you're really made of. After everything my brother and I went through, after the slow healing, the quiet rebuilding, I believed the worst was behind us. I was wrong. Those months felt different. Not easy, but lighter. We worked together carefully, almost cautiously, like two people afraid to break something fragile. Trust. That's what we were rebuilding. Not loudly. Not confidently. Slowly. I watched my brother closely. He woke up early. He stayed late. He asked questions instead of giving orders. The man who once believed money made him superior was learning humility the hard way. And for the first time, I believed he had truly changed. That belief would soon be tested. One evening, my phone rang. An unknown number. I almost ignored it. Something told me not to. The voice on the other end was calm. Too calm. He said my brother's name. Then he said mine. And then he said words that made my heart slow down. You should know what's happening behind your back. I stood still. The world around me faded. I asked him what he meant. He laughed softly and said, "Ask your brother about the deal he signed without you." Then the line went dead. That night, I didn't confront my brother. I watched him. I studied his behavior. Every laugh felt suspicious. Every silence felt heavy. Old memories resurfaced. The insults. The arrogance. The way he used to hide things. And suddenly, fear returned. Not fear of failure. Fear of being betrayed by the same person. Again. The next morning, I asked him directly. No anger. No accusations. Just truth. Did you sign something without telling me? He froze. That pause told me everything. He tried to explain. Said it was an opportunity. Said it was urgent. Said he didn't want to bother me. Every excuse sounded familiar. Too familiar. My chest tightened. I said quietly, "You promised we'd never hide things again." He looked down. And for a moment, he said nothing. Then he whispered, "I was afraid you'd say no." That hurt more than the deal itself. Within weeks, the truth came out. The deal was bad. Very bad. Legal problems. Financial pressure. Threats. Everything we rebuilt was at risk. And once again, my brother stood in front of me. Broken. Ashamed. Silent. This time, the pain felt heavier. Because betrayal from someone who already broke you once cuts deeper. That night, I sat alone. Lights off. Phone untouched. I replayed every moment. Every warning sign I ignored. Every time I chose hope over caution. And for the first time since my rise, I considered walking away. Not out of anger, but exhaustion. I asked myself, how many times should someone be forgiven? When does mercy become weakness? When does patience turn into self-destruction? There was no clear answer. Only silence. And memories. In the middle of the night, my mother knocked on my door. She had sensed something. Mothers always do. She didn't ask questions. She just said, "Your father once told me something." I listened. She continued. "He said forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing peace over pride." She looked at me and added, "But even forgiveness needs boundaries." That sentence changed everything. The next morning, I made a choice. I didn't abandon my brother, but I didn't rescue him blindly either. I told him, "I will not save you from consequences." He looked terrified. I continued, "But I won't let you drown either." I helped him face the damage, pay debts honestly, accept losses, apologize where needed. No shortcuts, no lies. It was painful. For both of us. One night, he broke down. Not quietly. Not controlled. He cried. He said, "I thought I had changed, but fear still controls me." That was the first honest sentence he had ever spoken. And I realized something powerful. True growth doesn't come from success. It comes from surviving failure without lying to yourself. Progress this time was slower, more careful, more disciplined. Trust, once broken twice, heals slowly. But something was different. There were no secrets, no shortcuts, no ego, just honesty and effort. Life didn't give us peace immediately. After the second fall, after the betrayal, after the painful rebuilding, everything slowed down. Too slow. There were days when progress felt invisible. Days when effort didn't seem worth it. Days when silence felt heavier than failure. But those days, those were the days that shaped us the most. One morning, I woke up before sunrise. The house was quiet. No phones ringing. No voices. No pressure. Just stillness. I sat by the window and watched the sky slowly change colors. And I realized something I had never understood before. Peace doesn't arrive with success. It arrives when your heart finally stops fighting the past. Even now, sometimes, that word still returned. Worthless. Not as loudly as before. Not as painfully. But like a shadow. I understood then that healing doesn't erase memories. It changes how much power they have over you. The pain didn't disappear. I just grew bigger than it. My brother changed in ways no one noticed. He stopped talking about money. Stopped chasing recognition. Stopped trying to prove himself. Instead, he listened. He asked questions. He showed up early and stayed late, not to impress, but to contribute. One evening, he said something unexpected. I used to think being respected meant being feared. He paused, then added, "Now I know it means being trusted." That sentence told me everything. Then came the opportunity. A big one. The kind that could erase all our struggles in one move. Fast growth. Quick money. Public recognition. But something felt wrong. The terms were unclear. The promises too perfect. I looked at my brother. Years ago, he would have jumped at it. Now, he hesitated. He looked at me and asked, "What do you think?" That moment mattered. Not the deal. The question. We said no. Not because we were afraid, but because we had learned. Walking away felt strange. Almost painful. But also freeing. For the first time, we weren't controlled by fear of missing out. We were guided by values. That night, my mother noticed something different. She said, "This house feels lighter." She smiled in a way I hadn't seen in years. Not relieved. Not hopeful. But peaceful. And I realized something important. Our healing healed her too. 1 year after that night, we sat at the same dinner table again. Same walls. Same chairs. Same plates. But not the same people. No tension. No silence filled with judgment. Just warmth. My brother stood up slowly. His hands steady. His voice clear. He said, "This table once heard words that nearly destroyed a family." He looked at me. Eyes filled, but not weak. I called my own brother worthless. The room went quiet. He continued. That word didn't define him. Then he said something that shook me. It defined me. He turned to me fully. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just honest. "I'm sorry for the pain I caused when I was afraid of my own failure." No excuses. No justification. Just truth. I nodded. Because some apologies don't need answers. They need acceptance. That night, as everyone slept, I stayed awake. Thinking. About everything. And I finally understood what worth really means. Worth is not money. Not success. Not approval. Worth is getting back up when no one claps. Choosing humility when pride feels easier. Forgiving without becoming weak. Walking away from shortcuts even when no one is watching. Worth is character. Revealed over time. If you're watching this story and you've ever been called useless, if someone made you feel invisible, if you're sitting quietly at a table where your voice doesn't matter, hear this. Your value is not decided by people who don't know your future. Sometimes, the ones who hurt you first will learn from you last. Life doesn't rush justice. It waits. It watches. And when the lesson is ready, it arrives quietly. Just like success did. Just like healing did. That night, I slept peacefully. Not because I proved anyone wrong, but because I finally knew who I was. And no one ever gets to take that away again. Just like peace.